Okay, so it is 10:58 and we will promptly start at 11, but I thought it might be a good idea since everybody's looking so good right now that we just go around really quickly and show who we are. So a lot of you know me, Lori Lorenza with Design Point. I'm head of marketing. Then we have Christopher, who probably has the best workspace from all of us. And yes, that is a BigRep printer. More to come, more to come. We have Margaret, all the way from New York. We have Frank, who my favorite nickname is, he's a big kahuna. He's the president of BigRep, right? Andrew, who's in our 3D printing facility right now, and the lovely Abby, who will be doing a ton of the facilitation for this webinar. So,
and let's not forget about Lori, who is head of marketing at Design Point. You just so kindly introduced everybody.
All righty. So why don't we get started? Abby, do you want to kick us off and just let them know about chats and everything else?
Sure, yeah, so great. Thank you guys all for joining us. We're really sad we can't be with you all in person, but we figured this is the next best thing. You can at least see our smiling faces like Lori mentioned, and hopefully someday real soon we can actually see your smiling faces again too. But what we wanted to do is, since trade shows have been canceled, events have been canceled, we really wanted to come up with a way to bring our printers to you, and this was kind of the best way to do that. So we're going to be live in Boston. Like Lori mentioned, we are kind of all scattered around the States right now, but the focal point of today's event will be live in Boston, and there was Chris's hand you could kind of see filtering there. But what we're going to do today is, so we're going to kick it off with Andrew and Frank. They're just going to give a pretty high-level introduction to who BigRep is and Design Point, and I'm sure many of you already know that. Then we're going to go live to Chris in Boston to do a demo. He will give a demo on the 1, the Pro, and the G2. And after each one, he's going to pause for questions. So definitely type those in, raise your hand. We want to keep it as relevant as we can. So when he's done with the 1, if you've got a question on the 1, we want to hear it. And then I will pause Chris, and we will ask all of those. Once he's done with the printers, we're going to go to New York to Maggie, and she is going to demo our Blade software. So that's the slicing software that we use. And then we're going to bring it all back together to Andrew and Frank and do talk about some applications, you know, where they see the biggest growth opportunities, some of all that great stuff. So again, if you have questions, please type those into the question box there. Feel free to chat with us as well. There's also a handout in there that you can download if you want to learn more. And I think with that, I am going to stop talking. And unless Lori, you got anything else you want to tell them? Okay, all right, let's go Frank and Andrew. It's all yours.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks, Lori. Big kahuna. That's big representation to live up to. So I'll try not to let you down, Lori. But oh, sorry, it's Andrew. You're first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a nickname like the Big Kahuna. I'm gonna have to come up with one if we're gonna do webinars like this. I feel like a little nickname envy here going on. But my name is Andrew Garczyk. I'm an application engineer for Design Point. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited to give you guys a sneak peek behind the curtain at BigRep to see, what it is to operate a machine like this, how it works, and what it's good for. Real quick, let me just tell you a little bit about Design Point. So Design Point is a growth advisory firm. We work with manufacturing, design, and engineering companies. They come to us with bottlenecks and efficiencies problems, or sometimes just when they think more is possible. They want to have a second set of eyes come in to take a look at their processes and systems and see if there's ways to improve and become more efficient. So that's the reason why we've partnered with BigRep and companies like BigRep, because of who our customers are, right? So we're working in the manufacturing field. This is an excellent tool for manufacturers to make end-use parts, tooling and fixturing, rapid prototyping. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this fits right into our offerings with our customer base. So we're really happy to be partnered with BigRep. We've been partnered with them about a year, a little over a year. We're the value-added reseller. So what does that mean? That means that we help out Before investment in the evaluation process, we actually conduct the training and installation for the equipment. And then post-install, we're your first line of defense as support. So if there's any issues or anything like that, Design Point's here to help. You have my cell phone number. And then, you know, if you need further support from BigRep, we facilitate that as well to make sure that you are 100% successful with the technology. So that's really Design Point and our relationship with BigRep. Me personally, again, I'm an application engineer. I work in our metal and composite 3D printing facility, excuse me, here in Clifton, New Jersey. And I help out in the evaluation process. So when folks are looking into this, I will come on site, or possibly a colleague of mine, or even combination of several people. We will do, you know, now that COVID hit, sometimes we do this virtually, but we're planning on getting back and doing this on site. We will go on site, we will determine which applications are a good fit. If any iterations need to be in that process, there's a benchmark part created to test out, prove out the technology. But we're basically here to help prove it and make sure that it's a good customer and that back to Frank.
Thanks, Andrew. Actually, just in time, because you were cutting out a little bit, but I think we got most of that. So all good, all good. First off, we're really pleased to be with Design Point. I think it's a good partnership. We both believe in long-term relationships with our customer and building customer satisfaction. Really, we wanted to get together here just to expand on a little bit of what Abby was talking about. We would want to see you at a trade show and to introduce you to the new technology that we have, that we brought to the market late last year, the Pro, the Studio G2, the evolution of the Studio, which Chris is also going to talk about. And the picture that you have there is our really our flagship that started the BigRep revolution back in 2014, as you see here. So BigRep is the leader in large format 3D printing. That's what we do, and actually thermoplastic extrusion. So plastic large 3D printing, and that is not easy. And if you've ever used a large 3D printer and it hasn't finished the build, and it's been frustrating after you've printed a day or two or three, you know what some of the challenges of using our competitors are. So we pride ourselves in a high quality large format 3D printer. We started from the beginning as a global company. So we have offices in Berlin as our headquarters. It's a German engineering company, but we also have an office in Boston and in Singapore. As you see here, about 100 employees. We have more than 500 large format 3D printers in the marketplace, and we cover more than 26 countries and more than 70 resellers. So that's a little bit overview of BigRep globally. I do want to stress, and this is, I don't want to take too much time from the demo, but I want to stress that to make a successful capital equipment company, there are certain things that you need. You need to have local stock. You need to have a local expertise. So we at BigRep pride ourselves on being an American company, American subsidiary of a German company. So when you buy a printer, you buy it from Design Point, and Design Point gets it from BigRep America. When Andrew needs escalation, he'll get it from Chris or Amnon or Maggie here in the US office. We have spare parts and all of our filaments all stored in the US. And from my standpoint, that is a requirement of any large piece of capital equipment. And that's what BigRep does. There's so much more I can talk about, but actually, I just wanted to chat with Andrew for a few minutes. So Andrew, you expanded on some of the markets, and maybe you can expand on that. I think of Design Point in the design and functional prototyping space, but you also mentioned manufacturing and other markets. Maybe help me out and other applications and areas that you see BigRep fitting that are not design.
Sure. So you know, one area that I'm going to be honest, surprised me a little bit based on my previous experience, but we've seen a good amount of people in the aerospace industry actually take on this technology. We've got companies that make UAVs, and I'm not talking drones, I'm talking UAVs for government, you know, printing nose cones and, you know, prototyping those and doing some end use parts for those as well. Got another company in aerospace designing a new plane. Can't really say too much about it because it's kind of under wraps, but again, same thing, prototyping and some end use parts for that. Another company we've got is in the display industry. Again, don't want to reveal too much about their secret sauce or anything, but they make displays that go into the public, and they make, let's say, if they want a polar bear, so they're just will print on a big one.
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew, I'm going to
finish it.
Andrew.
Also seen uses for sand casting. You know, there's a company called Boys that's actually our patch, which is in.
I just muted you, Andrew.
Okay, all right, great. Sorry about that, guys. We're gonna let Andrew fix his audio, and we'll let him finish his thoughts after the demo. So Chris, if you are there, I will let you get set up. And before we do that, I think Lori's got a quick poll. So we just want to make sure, like I said, we want to keep this interactive. If we could ask all of you questions, we would love to, but to make the most of it, we're gonna kind of poll the audience to do a little bit of interactivity here. So do you have an additive strategy at your organization?
Oh, interesting numbers are coming in, 80%, 70%. I love to see how this fluctuates. 75% are saying yes, they do, and 25% are saying no, they do not. Some interesting findings there.
Right. So we'll hope this demo here converts those 25% that don't have an additive strategy yet into considering adding one. So great. Thank you guys for answering that poll question. And Chris, are you there? We're gonna head over to Boston now.
Yep. You guys can hear me just fine?
We can hear you. We just gotta bring your screen back up, Lori.
All right,
Yep.
perfect.
Just handed that over.
And we should be good to go. And like I mentioned earlier, so Chris is gonna start on the one. If you guys have questions, please type those in. We'll do a quick Q&A after each printer demo before he moves on. So fire away.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Frank, for the introduction. I'm here in our Boston office, accompanied by our service manager, Amnon. I am a application engineer, technician. I help resellers do installs, a bit of other work. The point of this demo today is to give a rough overview of all of our machines, go through some tips and tricks, go through maintenance, just get you guys interested in large format 3D printing. So the machine I have here is our flagship machine called the BigRep 1. As Frank mentioned earlier, BigRep has been around for about 6 years. This is our flagship machine. We have about 500 total machines globally. I think we hit that mark in about February. This BigRep 1 has been around the longest, so about 300 of those machines are the 1. The reason why we call it the BigRep 1 is due to its build volume, which is 1 meter X, Y, and Z, or 1 meter cubed. So companies based in Germany, I'll say this a lot during the demo, German engineering. We love our engineering, all for Germany. It takes a lot of that German engineering to create a machine as reliable and consistent as this. This is actually our 3rd iteration of the BigRep 1. So as each iteration got produced, it got exponentially better and better. So at this point, we have the ability to do dual extrusion, wide variety of materials, which I'll get into a bit more detail. So as you can see right now, what we're printing is a dual extrusion part. The black material is in our BigRep TPU, so a flexible rubber-like material. And then as a support material, we have Pro HT, which is BigRep's version of ABS. So ABS by nature is a little toxic to print in an open environment. So using our material providers, we had this great material developed, and I think it's my personal favorite. So the extruders themselves, the nozzle sizes range anywhere from 0.6 millimeters all the way up to 2.0. So depending on the type of resolution quality you're looking for versus speed, there are many different layer heights and speed settings that the customer can use, whether they want to go quick and easy like we have here, this large dome, or if you wanted more of a detailed part like a stool or a mold, whatever it may be. So a bit more on our material package. BigRep does offer an open material platform in that we have our own materials, about a dozen to 15 materials where a customer can use our slicer, drop in their model, press play, and have good, very good quality parts. But we do not limit customers to using third-party materials that we may not have. We understand that the additive manufacturing industry has so many materials, and I think it would be impossible for us to keep up with that. So with our engineering and with the slicing and material options that we have, we're able to trust our machine, trust the throughput and the consistency to run whatever material you guys like. So
just a quick note to everybody watching, if you want to make Chris bigger, if you happen to be viewing all of us panelists in like the Brady event view, I like to call it, if you go up to presenter, it's kind of on the top row, this presenter webcam, you can change it to just view presenter. You can just see Chris. So that way you can see the printers a little bit bigger. So just a quick note there. Sorry, Chris, back to you.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah, and so Emma, if you want to get a closer look, I can get out of the screen. I'm not the focal point here. You can see the big bed that the part is sitting on. So that is actually 1/4 inch aluminum. And then that orange sheet above is a polyamide. We call that Kapton tape. So what that allows is for better material adhesion, and it also distributes the temperature coming from the bed just a little bit more evenly. So we're getting that nice solid bond, so you're preventing any warping or failed parts due to that. So,
hey, Chris, I have a question actually. So someone is asking how long did it take to print those 2 parts?
Yeah, so this is actually a single part. The TPU is the main area, and then the cylinder in the middle is a support material. What that support material is doing is preventing any loss of quality or sagging from the TPU. So this TPU here, it is naturally flexible. So because of that, our speeds have to go just a little bit slower to make sure that it'll print well. This guy has been going for about, I want to say 4 to 5 days, just because of that material. If we were printing this in something else, you know, we could do a 2 mil nozzle in a Pro HT and it could be done in 3 to 4 days time. So like I said, there's a wide variety of speeds and throughputs based on the material as well as the nozzle that you do have. So on the customer side and usability, so the operator panel, which is on the back side here, very simple, very easy to run. File uploads, you can do that directly to the machine, or you can do it remotely if you have it set up for Ethernet connection. It takes G codes, you know, you work with your STL through a slicer, which we'll get through later. But yeah, in terms of maintenance, there really isn't much post-sale, post-installation. Makes my job a little bit easier outside of just making sure the bed is clean and the spindles are well greased every couple of months. There isn't much. The bed, as large as it is, it stays put for long periods of time. I've installed these things anywhere from cubicle offices to high-end manufacturing facilities to schools, anywhere. They're versatile, they're consistent, exactly what you're looking for in a workhorse of this machine. So
Another question for you.
Sure.
Could you nest parts? Assume you had a dozen of those to print.
Yeah, I think Maggie later on will touch on that, but we can nest them, we can print them, you know, all at once, 2 at a time, 3 at a time, whatever it may be. So I think this is a good start for the one. I'll take any other questions you guys have before we move on to the Pro. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, we also got some questions about material. Where does the material go? How much material can you fit in there? And what kinds of materials run on this printer?
Yeah, so if Amnon comes a little bit closer, you can see it is about 3 millimeter thick filament. So no pellets, no powder, and no metals. So large format FDM. Let me grab a spool. So BigRep's sells anywhere from 2 kilogram spools all the way up to 10 kilogram. But with that open material platform, I've seen customers use spools as large as 25 kilograms. The machine doesn't care. The machine will run it no matter what, and it'll print it well.
I love that. The machine doesn't care.
Yeah. Just one more question. How easy is it to remove it from the plate, the build plate there?
So if you have the patience for it, it is fairly easy. So the bed is heated upwards to 80 C. The nozzle is actually upwards of 250 C. When the part is finished, the bed is automatically turned off. That thermal process from cooling down from 60 C to room temperature releases most parts. Depending on some geometries, we do some extra adhesives and things like that, but all of them are water soluble. So if you have the ability to wait until the bed is cool, or sometimes you can use a little water spray bottle to release the material, it works all the same, and it's easy.
All right, I think we're good to move on. Any more questions on the one? Looks like you're good.
Oh, just kidding. How close are you to metal?
Yeah, so we'll maybe take that question. I'll let Frank talk about that one. We'll let Chris move on to the pro, and then we can talk about future plans of BigRep.
Ready now?
We didn't forget about you, Scott. If we don't touch on it, feel free to ask that question again.
Oh, good. All right. So this is our BigRep Pro, kind of the second generation higher end version of the one. So obviously the first thing you notice is that it is fully enclosed. So what that allows for is a wider range of materials. Next, we have a new type of extrusion technology called MXT, which I'll get into in a little bit. And then lastly, we are pairing with Bosch Rexroth for their high-end CNC control system. So with the enclosure, with the new type of extrusion technology, as well as the control system, and the data gathered with it, I wouldn't even call this a singular printer at all. It's more of a platform to take from prototyping like the one to your inline manufacturing, where you're nesting, hundreds, tens of parts depending on the size, gathering what's in spec, out of spec, having the throughput with the new technology, and just turning it into just an amazing machine for the high-end facilities for whoever needs it. So we can take a look inside just to give you a better idea of what's going on. So this part here, I think it's actually finished either this morning or yesterday night. Just a bike frame using our Pro HT. If you can look in the top right, there are 2 extruders. So on the left-hand side is the MXT, and then on the right is the ACE. So a bit about the MXT. With standard industrial 3D printers, FDM, the limiting factor for speed is the thermal process. You have to wait for your filament to come in, melt, and then you're able to push it. What MXT does is generate a small pool of melted material, so you're no longer waiting for that material to melt. You always have something to pull from. So now the limiting factor is our control system and exactly how fast we can move our extruders in the X, Y, and Z. So with the MXT, the material we can run right now is nylon, with more engineering materials to come. The ACE, which is similar to the extruders we have on the BigRep 1, that is used for our support material, and then a whole other range of materials. So The way we designed and engineered our Pro is that it's very compartmentalized. So if you wanted to change out to dual ACE to dual MXT, wide range of materials, the same range as the BigRep 1, 0.6 all the way up to 2.0. So again, depending on the application and the end use that the customer wants, the Pro can work for that and adhere to exactly what they're looking for. Let's see. So the bed, because you have the higher range of materials, the bed can now get up to 80C. Actually, I think it's almost 100C for this bed. And then the hot ends can get anywhere to 300, 350C. Again, just matching the mid-grade engineering materials and their specifications and requirements. So the BigRep Pro, on the user interface, it is Windows-based. I think it's just a little bit more recognizable, a little bit more user-friendly. Same deal as the one where you can have the USB upload of files directly to the machine, or an online upload if you are connected to the Ethernet. And then another feature that is allowed from the Ethernet is the onboard camera right here, so you can monitor jobs and just see what's going on from the comfort of your home.
Another good question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do the new MXT extruders and both CNC affect speed?
Yeah, of course. So overall throughput, comparing it from the BigRep 1 to the Pro, I guess let's take a step back. The Pro, or sorry, the 1 compared to your standard industrial 3D printer, it's already 1.1, 1.2 times as fast. And then if you were to compare the 1 to the Pro is about 2 to 3 times as fast right now. And the beauty of the CNC systems is that we're still just getting our feet wet with that. We're already 2 to 3 times as fast. And I think as we learn more and more, we'll get at least 3 to 5 times as fast. So let me grab a part just to give it some scale here. So this stool here was printed in PLA, 8% infill on our BigRep 1. This took about, I think, 25, 26 hours on the 1. If we were to print this on the Pro, it would take about 12 hours. And then, maybe in some time, it could take under 10 hours. So we generally don't like to think about it as speed and accelerations because everything's going back and forth, back and forth. Generally, the overall throughput of our machine is what we like to show off for the Pro. Any questions so far on the Pro?
What's the footprint of it? Like, how big actually is it? You mentioned the build size.
Yeah, so
how big
build size is the same as the 1. The actual footprint with all the extra panels and stuff, it's about 6 feet wide, 8 feet long, and then about 6.5 feet tall. No, maybe 6 feet tall. As Amnon does his walk around. And then filament, because we're dealing with the mid-grade engineering materials, it does need to be actively dried. So we do have a couple chambers on each side to actively dry and make sure that the material is going to print well. Things like BVOH or PVA, which are water soluble, or things like nylon or PETCF, they do require a bit of drying. So you're not gonna get any clogging or under extrusion or things like that. If we got nothing else, we can move on to the G2.
Hey, Chris, what other kind of materials can the Pro do? Can it do ABS?
Yep, so the Pro can do ABS, ASA, your PETCF, any of the mid-grade engineering materials. So at this point, BigRep has probably half a dozen of those mid-grade engineering materials already on our shop, and then more to come. And then again, with our open material platform, if there's something that we haven't necessarily released yet, the Pro will be able to run that as well.
And just one more question. What's the power requirement for the Pro? And I guess while we're at it, for the One, since we didn't talk about that.
So the power requirement for the One, it's anywhere from 200 to 240 volts, about 20 amps. And then the Pro, it's about 400 volts and a 30 amp plug.
All right, I think we've got all the questions. Anyone else have any final questions on the Pro? If not, we'll move on to the baby of the family.
Perfect. Good. All right. So it is obviously relative. Our baby is our Studio G2. So the build size is actually about a quarter of the BigRep One. So 1 meter long by a ½ meter wide and a ½ meter tall. This is our quietest machine. I've had these next to cubicles, office cubicles, and I can't hear a single thing out of it. So similar to the Pro, it is fully enclosed. So just think mid-grade engineering materials. The Gantry, somewhat similar to the BigRep One, belt-driven nanotech stepper motors. It is a dual extrusion system like the one in the Pro. It is a single head, but on the inside there are still 2 extruders retracting up and down, so you can do a wide range of support materials and engineering materials along with that, so you're getting the highest quality parts possible. The nozzle size on the Studio is 0.6. That's just our standard. We do have customers swap them out if need be to larger. We just found with the build size and the types of parts that customers are running on the Studio, the 0.6 was the best option. Similar to the Pro, it has the onboard camera, and then on the back side of the machine, it has the heated filament chamber. Just anything you would need to run that higher grade materials. Let's think of something else. Yeah, I mean, if you want to do whatever.
Oops, sorry. What's the temperature ranges for the G2?
Temperature ranges on the G2, the bed about upwards of 80 C, and then the hot ends, which actually are hardened steel, they can get upwards of the 300, 350 C range. And then one thing I forgot to mention on the filament chamber and the print chamber, you can set the temperatures to exactly the desired spec based on the material and the working environment that you want. So the chamber itself isn't actively heated, but because the bed is so large in comparison to the print volume, the print chamber, if we have the bed at 80 C and have that sit overnight, the chamber can get anywhere from 50 to 60 C inside. Yeah. And then once it does reach a certain temperature, there is a fan in the back to blow out all that hot air, so it's not getting too hot.
Anyone have any questions on the G2? And while they're coming in, Chris, what's the biggest and the best part you've printed since you've been at BigRep?
Ooh, I always like that question. The biggest part probably took almost a month. So that was on the BigRep One. I don't remember what the heck it was. It was just this giant mold for someone, and it was all in Pro HT, 2 mil nozzle, and it was just this huge thing. I don't even know how we packed it in the end. It was daunting. And then my favorite parts, obviously I like the parts that I design and print on the printers, but for the customers, there are a couple interesting customers that do giant Christmas ornaments and Christmas structures and all of these funky designs. So we did a benchmark part for them, and it was a giant hippo. And so that was interesting to look at for a couple of weeks as it was slowly getting larger and larger and a little bit more creepy, you know, especially in the morning as I was coming in, it'd be looking at me before I turn on the lights. So that's always one that sticks out to me.
Nice. And I see there's a printer standing right next to the one you're standing by that looks slightly different. Can you just
a little bit different? Yeah, this
upgrade?
guy's hiding behind its bigger brother. So the BigRep's Studio G2, obviously that means there was a G1 way back when. So the G1 does not have the full enclosure, so therefore it's not as good as printing the mid-grade engineering materials. Still works well, similar to the one. It's still a workhorse, it'll still run 24/7. It just doesn't have the bells and whistles like the G2, like the filament enclosure. So you can see there, it's running off a benchmark part. I believe that's Pro HT in nature, our nature color. That's been going for probably a day or two, and it'll have another day or two to finish.
Great. Do we have any other questions for Chris?
I guess the last
All
thing
right.
that I'll just add on here is to any of our attendees who maybe don't have a question but want to speak on anything, if you give me a little hand raise, I'll surely unmute you so you can ask your question live. Again, we want to make this as interactive as possible.
All right, great. All right, Maggie, we're going to give you hand it over to you. So the last part of kind of our live demo here is on our Blade software. So our Blade is our slicing software that works with all of our printers. Maggie, are you there? Maggie's coming to us live from New York.
I am. Okay, I'm going to show my screen. Can everyone see the software?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm here just to talk a little bit about our in-house slicing software that we use called BigRep Blade. It's been developed over the last, I would say maybe year and a half, in-house with our software team, working together with R&D, materials, and our engineers to really make the most optimal slicing software, particularly for large format printing and for BigRep machines. As you can see here, the layout does look slightly like Cura. So if you have used Cura in the past, this will probably feel familiar to you. Also, just to mention, it is free software that we provide to you via our website and is free for download if you'd like to have a look at it after this webinar. Some important parts that we integrated after working with third-party softwares for a long time was really getting options to help you minimize speed and material usage. So as you can see here, I actually have the BigRep's Studio G2 machine loaded up, and this is one of our test parts, a manifold part. You can see up here, you're able to switch your machines according to which one you're using. On the side here, you have all your typical tools in terms of scaling, rotating, and moving. And then up here, you have the dual extrusion options. So you have both of our hot ends, both extruders, T0 and T1, and then a list of all sorts of different materials that you can use on our machines. So the great part also is that we provide you with presets, essentially. So if you don't feel super comfortable slicing and you purchase a machine or you're new to 3D printing, our team has sort of worked on setting up the best possible options for you. But you can also go in if you are really experienced and tweak and make a lot of changes that could be particular to your print and what you want. I will go to preview here as I've already sliced the file just to make it a little bit quicker. And the other great part is seeing that preview of your print. So that's something we also pride ourselves on, that we have a really great preview. You can also slice down and sort of see how the part will build itself up. right now I have it on a view that's showing colors specific to what the line type is. So you'll see that the red is our outer loop, blue is support structure. This bright blue down here is actually a brim to help hold it onto the bed. Yellow is top surface. And then as we move through this part, you'll also see infill and what the interior looks like. So it's really great to kind of show you the expectation of what you should expect, or give you a proper expectation of what you will see when your print finishes. And lastly, I'll just point out, yeah, so down here you'll see your print time, which we pride ourselves is very on point. You'll also see the amount of material you use. So it allows for easy pricing out. And it also breaks it down into what exactly, if you hover over this info button, what exactly is taking the most time and what isn't. So that's just a further step in terms of optimizing your print and making it faster. Anyone from my team have points to add to this?
Just one quick question we've got. Do you have to use this software?
You don't have to, except for our Pro machine. For the Pro, you do have to use it because of our new MXT technology. But otherwise, if you're working with our Studio machine or R1, we still offer factory files for Simplify 3D, which is a third-party software. We also offer, you can use Cura as well or other slicing softwares. But we do, since this is a free software, we do recommend using it, as it's where we've spent the most time sort of figuring out what would work best on BigRep printers.
Right, great. Does anyone have any questions for Maggie? I mean, it looks so easy.
I guess one last thing I'll say is just when you go from Blade, you'll see here save to file. So how you upload onto the machine is either through your computer if you're connected with an Ethernet cable, or you can just very easily save it to a USB and upload it manually.
Great, very important there. All right, well, if we don't have any questions, thank you, Maggie, and we're going to turn it back over here to Andrew and Frank. But before we do that, panelists, we want to turn your cameras back on, show everybody you're still with us. But before that, I think Lori's got another poll.
Yep. Give me 1 second just to pull that bad boy out. If Frank and Andrew want to talk, Andrew, maybe we'll test to make sure that your audio sounds good.
Does not sound good. We don't hear you at all now. Frank, can you talk? Frank, we don't hear you either.
1 second.
Oh,
all right.
Do you hear? Okay.
Oh,
Frank,
there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, can you hear me? I'm joined in by phone now versus the computer, so hopefully this is going to go a lot better this time.
Frank, yours shows that it's self-muted if you want to just hit that icon real quick.
Okay, I was trying to unmute it, so I guess I unmuted and muted. Ah.
Perks of technology. All right, let me launch this poll. So we are curious to know what type of applications you're currently doing or you're interested in doing. So why don't you guys let us know? Whoa, I love that a lot of you are like all of them. We'll give you guys a few seconds. Bars are moving. A lot of people are saying, so 100% of you are saying that you're interested in prototyping. 86% of you are interested in tooling. 100% of you are interested in patterns, molds, and castings. And 71% of you are interested in end-use parts.
Wow.
Pretty awesome.
All right, that's some food for thought there. Maybe we can, Lori, quick turn Maggie's. There we go. And let's make us all big again.
Okay, while you're working through that, Abby, a couple of things came to mind when Chris was doing the demo. By the way, Chris and Maggie, great demo. I think is as close to showing the system in like a trade show mode as we could. So I hope everybody appreciated that. One thing that I get all the time is, why large? I don't make that big of parts all the time. And there are several answers why large. First, I always say that large starts at about 200 millimeters. So if you ever need a part that's bigger than 200 millimeters, then actually that's where large format is. That huge 1 meter cube part that Chris was talking about is more the exception than the standard. So that if you want to print something in one piece, and one place that becomes clear is if you look at the ebook from Steelcase, you'll see that they used to use small printers, and they were not able to get the full functionality when they tried to piece their product together. And when they finally bought a BigRep printer, they really got a functional comparison in their prototype process. And they were so successful, they actually spread BigRep throughout Steelcase around the world, and we're happy to have Steelcase as a partner. But that's true and true, that you never get good functional prototypes if you have to cut them in data, plus the time that's associated with it. But on top of that, you don't have isotropic properties when you're printing, or you might want your features to be emphasized in one direction or another. So in that case, you might want to lay it one place or another, and in that way, with large, you don't limit yourself on how you want to lay the part. And last point is that if you want to do manufacturing, and we were doing a lot of PPE for supply chain problems in healthcare, like a lot of companies were, and those shields that we were printing, or those little nozzles that we were printing, might take a few hours, and you would have had to attend to that. But if we can lay up 50 on a bed, now you can walk away for a day and come back and only attend to it every day. The inefficiency of being there when it finishes is eliminated by large format. The other thing that comes to mind is materials. I know Chris mentioned it, but we are introducing a lot of new engineering materials, and stay tuned. If you need materials, then we have it. One last point for me is we do have a team called Engineering Solutions. It's a new business unit to help our customers solve challenging problems. So if along the way, and I love that 70% of you are talking about end-use parts, that may need design for additive. That may need separate materials or special supports, or even sometimes we've worked with customers on custom infills inside a part to change the mechanical properties, thermal properties. So those are things that our engineering solution teams can help you work on. One of their most famous product is the Airbus box. Airbus came to us with a challenge that said, we are shipping these sensitive electronic devices, mechanical devices around the world, and they're ending up damaged when they get to the remote site. And we work with them on a very simple configurator that doesn't need CAD expertise to be able to reverse the design of that box to maintain the right strength and support that those parts need. And that's actually a product that we're spreading around the world right now. Anyway, Andrew, I'm sorry to hog the entire time. So let's switch back to you regarding some of your customers. I know that Design Point has sold to one customer, very small, working out of their house with a BigRep 1. That's amazing. And big aerospace customer. I know this customer that bought it for drones. So again, like you were talking about earlier, can't talk about it more than that, but is using it for supply chain challenges in the short run. So it really can solve a lot. I don't know, let you kind of take it from here on what's your most exciting application or where you see its best fit into the Design Point customer base.
Sure. So let me just comment on the first one that you had mentioned, which was somebody put one of these into their personal house, but I think it speaks to a larger issue, right? If you're looking at the size of some of these printers, you might be saying, well, you know, maybe our facility or the area we have, it's a little hard. How are we going to get it through the door? What we did in that instance is we hired a crane operator. Guy drove his crane out there, parked it right in front of the house. We lifted the crate. You can imagine how big the crate for these printers are because how big the printer is. We lifted it over the house, plopped it in the backyard, and then entered through there. So just want to make everyone aware that, you know, we will take these apart. We'll move them through doors. Not a worry. That's Design Point's deal to make sure that we get these inside and installed for you in the best way possible. But yeah, and then the second one you mentioned actually is something that kind of hits a little closer to home. We had an aerospace, and again, it speaks to a larger issue. We had an aerospace company who is, you know, purchased the BigRep 1 in order to make parts for their UAVs. And that's great, but the way that they were able to get the funds together was through a grant from the federal government. So they went to the government, they said, we want to make some personal protective equipment for brave healthcare workers. They got a grant for it, and now they got a BigRep 1, and they are printing PPE around the clock. So just the bigger issue there is, like, it's not always that you need a big handful of money to get one. You know, maybe it's a grant, maybe it's financing, maybe it's a lease, maybe it's something else. So again, that's something that Design Point handles.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah, the reason why. Oh, sorry.
Lori chiming in here because I know that Frank mentioned PPE and now you're mentioning it again. And so I just want to show this slide, which I also think answers, I think it was Scott's question about, you know, like nesting parts and everything. And maybe you can just share a little bit about Design Point's efforts and actually how we leveraged our 3D printer to address volume.
You beat me to it. I was going right there, I swear.
Sorry, stole your thunder.
Yeah, that was a great segue. That was perfect, actually. So yeah, so the reason why it kind of hit close to home was because we had some personal experience with making PPE at Design Point. So basically what happened was COVID hit, and immediately once it got to a point, we said we want to form a team to see how we can help. So we took folks from marketing, you know, 3D printing, sales, operations. We formed about a 10-person team. We started meeting every day, and very quickly we realized that, hey, we've got a unique capability in 3D printing, so we should be making PPE. So very quickly we realized that some of our other printers that we had, we couldn't really make it. You know, we could make 2 or 3 pieces in a day, you know, maybe 5 or 6. But when we, you know, engaged the BigRep printer we have, this is our Studio G1 in our Philadelphia office. That whole build plate you're seeing there, which is like, I think it's 24 units, you know, it makes that in a handful of hours. You can run it a few times a day. We were making like 50 of these a day versus about 5 of them with our other technology. So it was important. It would not have happened had we not had the BigRep technology. And it just goes to show that it's not just about printing big parts. This is also, it can be, you know, of course it's about printing big parts, but it can also be about successfully printing a higher volume of parts. And that would not have been possible without technology. I believe this, yep, that's the one I was hoping for. So this is some healthcare workers that we had sent PPE to. They sent this picture back to us. And that's some of the printed PPE off the BigRep, which is now in the field. And it looks like the one gentleman put one on a can of peanuts or something like that. But looks like they're having fun. So yeah, again, it just became quick, you know, relevant, became apparent very quickly in that process that BigRep was the way to go with making this PPE.
Yeah, and Andrew, that so the PPE was the short-term benefit of additive, and we got a lot of press on it. In the long term, what some of our customers were finding was that they are more vulnerable to foreign countries and their supply chains than they had thought. So the supply from China for sure, but the supply from Italy. We had one customer that had a mold held up earlier in the year due to the coronavirus in Italy, and bought a BigRep printer to print those parts instead of waiting for the mold. And that actually answers a lot of questions. But if your customers are thinking it's too risky to have China suppliers, or I might think of changing some of my parts to a make instead of a buy, and that buy is, you know, in another country that could be at risk, or if you want to go end use on demand. One thing from they're talking about tooling, but if you go to tooling or molding and say, I don't want to buy those, I want to make those, by eliminating that injection mold, you save weeks and weeks of mold time. You save thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can change on demand. We have one customer in Germany, Yamada. They make water scooters, and they decided, no, I'm not using a mold because I get locked into a certain design. I can change my design. Now, what that does take, and we have a webinar on that where Marco Cristofori talks about designing for additive. So you can't just take your old design and transfer it and say, oh, it works perfectly. There are nice little features, and that's, again, our engineering solution team that can come in and help you redesign some parts for additive. But so supply chain and end-use parts in transition seem to be a growing piece of the market. And if your customers, Andrew, are interested in it and don't know how to do it, because I think that's a lot of the situation, certainly in manufacturing. In design, everybody knows how to work, you know, SolidWorks or you know, the 3D CAD. But in manufacturing, fake jigs, fixtures, they don't always know how to create that jig. And if that's your limitation, then again, BigRep can get in there and help you, and Design Point help you find a solution. We have a configurator now to help you create jigs and fixtures that, so you don't have to know SolidWorks to be able to create good jigs and fixtures.
Frank, so many good nuggets in everything that you just said, right? About you know, people who have their perceived obstacles and how really BigRep is here to support them, and that's really not an obstacle at all, and how we can assist. The other piece about supply chain control is just so relevant to any and all manufacturers right now. I think it's a great opportunity for me to actually share one of your ebooks. You guys released something recently about how to reduce lead time with in-house supply chain, and some of the companies that you were naming, I believe, are also included. So I'm going to make sure to drop that for you guys. You guys should be able to have access to that handout. I'll also be sure to follow up with everyone that's attending here, just so you can, you know, they can all dig a little deeper into some of the great ways that people were able to leverage BigRep.
Great, Lori. You know, I'm Andrew and I can chat for another hour. We have 3 minutes left. Shall we see? Look, we have 500 customers, a lot of Fortune 100 companies, and a lot of the small mom and pops that you know, go in not so much in somebody's backyard in their basement, like Andrew was just talking about, but we really have a wide range of customer bases, and we have a lot of experience making large format 3D printers and solving applications, prototyping, jigs and fixtures, forms and molds, end use parts, really exciting part of the market. So give Design Point a call, and let's see, you know, where we can help you make a better solution. So I'll stop now and see if we have any other questions.
We do have one that just came in. Somebody is asking, how do you test a part file to make sure it is suitable for printing?
Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, so as the one area where I see part files not be acceptable is sometimes if the people do not change the settings on their CAD, like I use SolidWorks, for example, if they don't change the settings when they're saving the STL, it's just going to do whatever SolidWorks has decided is the best setting. So sometimes what that can create is a file that's too small. So typically what I find is if a file, and that's how you could check maybe, is you go into the file, look at the properties, see the file size. If it's less than a meg, if it's measured in kilobytes, I would be scared of it. And I would adjust those options while you're saving your STL file. The deviation in the angle, you could play with that so you get your file up to like, you know, a couple megs, something like that, a good healthy size, 10, 20 megs, and then you're sure that your file is acceptable. I'm not sure, was that actually the intention of the question, or was it more designed for additive?
Yeah, let me give the other side of it, Andrew, the design for additive side, and only because I shared the webinar with Marco, one of our experts. But for example, you want to know the machine that you're going to print it with. So what nozzle size, and you want the line widths to match up with your nozzle width, so that you have you don't have a struggle with the machine trying to get halfway between a row or a height, or you want your features to be better emphasized and in the right direction. So you know which side is your better side up, where do you want your most strength, or in support, if you're not careful, you can waste more time printing support than your model. So knowing how the machine works with the support will be also very important. I mean, Yamada did some things, they redesigned that cover, all those covers, so that they have very little support. And the customer doesn't notice the difference, but from the efficiency of the print, both from surface finish and time, it's really beneficial to them. So it's really knowing your machine, how it works, the technology, and we can help you do that with Design Point.
Yeah, for sure. If anybody has tons of questions, and I'm trying to be respectful of time. I know it's 12 o'clock right now, but if you have a file and you're curious, send it on over. We'd be happy to take a look at it and, you know, help you evaluate and discover all the possibilities that your company can leverage additive.
Yeah, certainly we could set up a little remote meeting where we could jump on for a half hour and just look over the part, and I could tell you, yeah, put a fillet over there, you know, that'll help relieve the internal stresses, and maybe we want to orientate it this way so the layer lines, you know, extend into that feature. So there's definitely some design for additive stuff, but I'm telling you, after you do it a couple times, you get used to it pretty quick. It's pretty easy to iterate your model for the process. You know, that's something that Design Point trains on as well, the whole design for additive side.
So fantastic.
All right, like Lori said, I think we're pretty close to out of time here. So just from the BigRep side, thank you guys for joining. I really wish we could be together, but I think this was the next best thing. But like Lori said, if you have questions, if you want a part analysis, you know, our experts are on hand and ready to help you guys evaluate that. Lori, any final words from you?
The last thing that I will go ahead and share is just a big old thank you. And then we'll be sure to send the recording to everyone who attended. Again, we'll be sure to send out those handouts. And if you guys have any other questions, just do a quick reply. Like Abby said, we're more than happy to help. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.